Hi, I'm Elaine Samvagaro, an ESL instructor based in Toronto, Canada, and this is Better English in 3 Minutes, your source for short lessons about advanced English grammar, vocabulary, and learning strategies to help you become the best English communicators that you can be. In our last video on paraphrasing, we focused on synonyms, sentence types, and parts of speech to help you restate a sentence in your own words. Today, we're going to explore how changing a sentence from the active to the passive voice, or from the passive to the active voice, can help you restate an idea. Let's jump right in and look at an example together. Dorothy Day described social activism in her memoir. Ask yourself, is this a passive or an active sentence? If you said active, you'd be correct. Why? Because the subject, Dorothy Day, performs the action on the verb described. Let's change it to the passive voice now. This is when the subject is acted upon by the verb. There are several steps that we'd have to follow to put the sentence in the passive. 1. Identify the subject, the transitive verb, and the object. 2. Switch the position of the subject and the object. 3. Add the verb to be in the form of the verb in the original sentence, plus the past participle of the original transitive verb. And finally, 4. Add a by agent if necessary. It's not always required. We'll talk about when it's required and when it's not required in an upcoming lesson. The version using the passive voice will look something like this. While this is good as far as it goes, this version is still too close to the original sentence. One or more of the techniques that we discussed in previous lessons needs to be applied to the passive sentence that we just created. So let's change the words described clearly to defined. And let's change memoir to biography. We can also add an introductory phrase, so our final version might read something like this. For our second example today, let's work backwards. We will start with a sentence in the passive voice and we'll turn it into the active form. The passive sentence we're going to work with is Samuel Johnson was always impressed, puzzled, and terrified by the runaway nature of the mind. If we apply all of the steps backwards, the active sentence will read, the runaway nature of the mind always impressed, puzzled, and terrified Samuel Johnson. Now, even though we've used the active voice in our paraphrasing effort, it's obvious that the two sentences, once again, are too similar. More work needs to be done to make this newly created active sentence our own, to put it into our own words. So let's start by finding synonyms for the words impressed, puzzled, and terrified. Let's choose fascinated, confused, and frightened. Ask yourself, can we change these words into another part of speech that might be appropriate for our paraphrase? Next, we need to understand the meaning of the runaway nature of the mind. Does this mean imagination? Escape? How can the mind run away from itself? The beauty of paraphrasing activities is that there may be more than one correct way to restate an original sentence. The version I created is as follows. The mind's ability to escape from reality was a source of ongoing fascination, confusion, and fear for Samuel Johnson. Just one final point before we say goodbye for today. Always remember that you should use a minimum of 2 paraphrasing techniques when you're restating someone else's words or ideas. And to be safe, make reference to the original source when you're specifically paraphrasing an author's ideas. That reminds me that the sentences for our lesson today were drawn from The Road to Character by David Brooks. If you get a chance to pick it up, it's an excellent book. Thanks so much, David, and thank you all for watching. See you again soon.